Captain Sarah Mitchell had been an Army nurse for 15 years. She was 42 years old, joined the Army Nurse Corps at 27 right out of a graduate nursing school. She'd deployed 4 times, Iraq twice, Afghanistan twice, spent more time in combat zones than stateside. She was good at her job, very good, had been promoted to captain ahead of her peers, had been selected for the most challenging assignments, had been sent to the places where the fighting was worst and the casualties were highest. Because when soldiers were dying, you didn't send the adequate nurses. You sent the best, and Sarah Mitchell was the best. She was stationed at Forward Operating Base Salerno in eastern Afghanistan, Coast Province, right on the Pakistan border, one of the most dangerous areas in the country, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Haqqani network, all operating in the region. Attacks were constant. IEDs, ambushes, rocket attacks, suicide bombers. The medical facility at FOB Salerno wasn't large, just a combat support hospital tent with 20 beds. But it handled everything: trauma, surgery, critical care, stabilization before medevac to Bagram or Germany. Sarah was the senior nurse, supervised 8 other nurses, coordinated with the surgeons, managed patient care from arrival to evacuation. She'd treated thousands of casualties, gunshot wounds, IED blasts, burns, traumatic amputations, head injuries, chest trauma, every kind of combat injury imaginable. She'd learned to triage quickly, to make impossible decisions about who could be saved and who couldn't, to live with those decisions even when they destroyed her. But she kept going, because soldiers needed her, because giving up wasn't an option, because someone had to stand in that tent and fight death even when death kept winning. September 14th, 2024, 20 hours. Sarah was in the medical tent reviewing supply orders. Standard afternoon work. Nothing urgent. A relatively quiet day by FOB Salerno standards. Then the radio crackled. Medical, this is talk. Multiple casualties inbound. Convoy hit by complex ambush. IED followed by small arms fire. Initial report shows 47 wounded. I say again, 47 wounded. ETA 12 minutes. Sarah's pen stopped moving. 47 casualties. The most she'd ever handled at once was 32, and that had been chaos. This would be worse. She keyed her radio. Talk, medical copies. 47 wounded, 12 minutes. Break. Medical personnel, this is Captain Mitchell. Mass casualty protocol. All hands to the trauma bay. Now. The medical tent exploded into controlled chaos. Nurses appeared from everywhere. Corpsmen, surgeons, anesthesia. Everyone moving with practiced efficiency. Preparing trauma bays, setting up equipment, getting blood ready, laying out supplies. Sarah stood in the center and made assignments. Johnson, you take trauma 1 through 5. Rodriguez, 6 through 10. Chen, 11 through 15. I'll float and coordinate. Surgeons, you know your rotations. Let's save some lives. 12 minutes later, the helicopters started arriving. 4 UH-60 Black Hawks, landing in rapid succession. Dust everywhere. Rotors screaming. Doors opening before the skids touched ground. And the casualties poured out. 47 wounded soldiers from a convoy that had been hit hard. IED destroyed the lead vehicle. Small arms fire raked the others. 7 critical. 15 serious. 25 minor. But all needed treatment. All needed care. All needed someone to keep them alive. Sarah moved through the chaos like a conductor directing an orchestra. Assessing, directing, making split-second decisions. This one to surgery now. This one to trauma 3. This one can wait. This one needs blood immediately. Move, move, move. Hours blurred together. 1420 became 1600. 1600 became 1800. 1,800 became 2,000. The medical tent ran like a machine. Nurses working on multiple patients simultaneously. Surgeons moving from table to table. Supplies being used and replenished. Blood transfusions, medications, emergency procedures. And through it all, Sarah coordinated. Checked on every patient. Made sure nothing was missed. Made sure everyone got the care they needed. By 2200 hours, 8 hours after the casualties arrived, 46 soldiers had been stabilized. 23 medevaced to Bagram for advanced care. 23 treated and released to their units or held for observation. 46 out of 47. But there was one, a Marine Lance Corporal, 23 years old. Multiple gunshot wounds to the chest and abdomen. Massive internal bleeding. They'd done everything. Transfused 12 units of blood. Performed emergency surgery. Tried every procedure in the book. But the wounds were too severe. The damage too extensive. At 22:47 hours, Lance Corporal James Mitchell stopped breathing. Sarah performed CPR, shocked him, pushed medications, tried for another 20 minutes. But he was gone. She called it at 23:07 hours. Time of death, 23:07. The medical tent went quiet. Everyone stopped, looked at the one patient they couldn't save. Then, because this was war and there was no time to grieve, they moved on. Cleaned the trauma bay, prepared for the next casualties, went back to work. Everyone except Sarah. Sarah stood beside the body of Lance Corporal James Mitchell, staring down at his face. Young, peaceful now. Someone's son, someone's brother. Someone who'd joined the Marines to serve his country and ended up on a table in Afghanistan. She reached for his dog tags. Standard procedure. Needed them for the casualty report. She lifted the tags. Read the name. And her entire world collapsed. Mitchell, James R.O. Posism Religion. Catholic Mitchell. Her last name. But that wasn't what made her knees buckle. What made the room spin. What made her hands start shaking so hard she dropped the dog tags. It was the emergency contact information engraved on the back of the tag. Ice, Sarah Mitchell, sister. Sarah stared at the dog tags, at her own name, at the word sister. This wasn't just Lance Corporal James Mitchell. This was her baby brother. The brother she hadn't seen in 5 years. The brother who'd joined the Marines 3 years ago. The brother who'd deployed to Afghanistan 6 months ago. The brother she'd been trying to reconnect with but kept missing because of deployments and time zones and the chaos of military life. The brother she'd just spent 8 hours trying to save. The brother who'd died on her table. The brother whose death she'd called her baby brother, Jamie. Sarah's legs gave out. She collapsed beside the table. Someone caught her. Started asking questions, but she couldn't hear them. Couldn't speak, couldn't process what had just happened. She treated 47 casualties. Saved 46, lost 1. And the 1 was her brother. If this story of an Army nurse who spent 8 hours saving 46 soldiers in the worst mass casualty event of her career, only to discover that the one she couldn't save was her own brother, already has you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe. What happens when Captain Mitchell has to choose between breaking down and continuing to serve will prove that some losses destroy you. Some choices haunt you forever, and some nurses carry burdens that no medal can honor. Now, let's go back to understand why Sarah Mitchell became an Army nurse, and why her brother followed her into the military. Second Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, 27 years old, fresh out of Army Nurse Corps training, stood in her new ACU uniform feeling like she'd finally found her purpose. She'd grown up in a military family. Father was Army. Grandfather was Army. Great-grandfather had been Army. Service was in her blood, but she'd chosen nursing instead of combat arms. chose to save lives instead of taking them, chose to be the one who put soldiers back together when war tried to tear them apart. Her little brother Jamie, 8 years old, was at the graduation ceremony, sitting in the front row with their parents, watching his big sister become an officer. After the ceremony, Jamie ran up to her. "Sarah, you look so cool. Can I be in the Army too?" "You're 8, Jamie. You've got a long time before you need to worry about that." "But I want to be just like you." Sarah knelt down, looked her baby brother in the eyes. "Then grow up strong and smart and kind. And if you still want to serve when you're old enough, I'll be proud of you. Promise?" "Promise," Jamie hugged her. Sarah hugged him back, not knowing it would be one of the last times, not knowing their lives would take them to different continents, different worlds, different realities. Sarah deployed to Iraq in 2010, spent 12 months treating combat casualties, learned what war really meant, what it cost, what it took from everyone it touched. She came home changed, harder, quieter, carrying ghosts she couldn't talk about. Jamie was 9 when she got back, still idolized his big sister, still wanted to be Army, but Sarah barely had time for him, barely had time for anyone. She was consumed by PTSD she wouldn't admit to, by nightmares she couldn't escape, by faces she couldn't forget. She deployed again in 2011. Afghanistan. Another 12 months. More casualties. More ghosts. By the time she came home in 2012, Jamie was 11, starting to understand that his sister wasn't the same person who'd left, starting to see the cost of service, starting to wonder if he still wanted to follow in her footsteps. But teenage boys don't think clearly. They think in terms of honor and duty and proving themselves. They think about being like their heroes, even when their heroes are broken. Jamie joined the Marines at 18 in 2021. Didn't tell Sarah until after he'd signed the papers. Called her from boot camp. "Sarah? It's Jamie. I joined the Marines. I'm at Paris Island." Sarah felt her heart stop. "You what?" "I joined, like you. Like Dad, like Grandpa. I'm serving." "Jamie, you don't understand what you've signed up for." "I understand perfectly. You showed me. You've been showing me my whole life. Service matters. Sacrifice matters. I'm doing this. Please tell me you're not going infantry." "Infantry." "Hero 311, rifleman. I shipped to Camp Pendleton after boot camp." Sarah wanted to scream. Wanted to beg him to quit. Wanted to tell him about the things she'd seen. The soldiers she'd held while they died. The bodies she'd zipped into bags. The nightmares that never stopped. But she couldn't. Because that would mean admitting her own trauma. Admitting that 15 years of service had broken something inside her that couldn't be fixed. So she said, "Be safe. Come home. I will. Love you, sis. Love you too, Jamie." That was 3 years ago. They'd talked maybe 10 times since then. Always missing each other. Always deployed to different places. Always meaning to reconnect but never finding the time. Until today, when they'd reconnected in the worst possible way. Sarah sat on the floor of the medical tent, staring at nothing. Jamie's body had been moved to the morgue, his personal effects bagged, his casualty report filed. The other nurses had tried to comfort her, had tried to help, but what could they say? What could anyone say? She'd saved 46 soldiers today, 46 lives that existed because of her skill, her training, her refusal to give up, but she'd lost one. And that one was Jamie. Colonel Martinez, the hospital commander, knelt beside her. "Sarah, Captain Mitchell, I need you to talk to me. I killed him." Sarah's voice was flat, empty. "You did everything possible. I triaged him last. 47 casualties. I had to prioritize. He was critical, but not the most critical. So I triaged him to Trauma Base 7, sent other nurses to treat him while I coordinated. I made the call, and he died. Sarah, if you'd been treating him personally, the other casualties might have died. You made the right call. He was my brother. Sarah's voice cracked. My baby brother. And I triaged him. I made the professional decision to let other people treat him while I coordinated care for everyone else. I chose the many over the one, and the one was Jamie. You didn't know. I should have known. Sarah was screaming now. 15 years of controlled professionalism shattering. I should have recognized him. Should have looked closer. Should have. How? You hadn't seen him in 5 years. He was covered in blood and dirt, in combat gear, unconscious. How could you have known? Sarah had no answer, because Martinez was right. There was no way she could have known. No way to recognize someone she hadn't seen in years. Someone who was just another casualty in a mass casualty event, but that didn't make it hurt less. Didn't make the guilt go away. Didn't change the fact that she'd spent 8 hours saving everyone except the one person who mattered most. Sarah was placed on administrative leave. Not punishment, not suspension. Just mandatory time to process, to grieve, to decide if she could continue serving. She didn't leave Fob Salerno. Couldn't. Where would she go? Home? To tell her parents their son was dead and their daughter had been there but couldn't save him? She stayed, avoided the medical tent, avoided everyone, sat in her quarters staring at Jamie's dog tags, the ones she'd been allowed to keep, the ones with her name as emergency contact. On the third day, Colonel Martinez came to her quarters. "Sarah, you have visitors." "I don't want—" "They're not asking." Sarah looked up. In the doorway stood 6 soldiers, all wearing Marine combat uniforms, all looking exhausted, sad, determined. "Ma'am," the ranking Marine said, "Staff Sergeant, maybe 30 years old. We're from Lance Corporal Mitchell's unit. We came to thank you." Sarah stared at them. "Thank me? For what? For letting your Marine die? For saving the rest of us, ma'am." The staff sergeant stepped forward. "I was in that convoy. Got hit by the IED, multiple shrapnel wounds. I was in your trauma bay. Trauma 1. You stabilized me, medevaced me to Bagram. I'm alive because of you." Another Marine spoke. "Me too, ma'am. Trauma 3. Gunshot wounds to the leg and shoulder. You directed my care, made sure I got blood, made sure I got to surgery. I'm keeping my leg because of you." One by one they told their stories. 6 Marines, all from Jamie's unit, all treated at Fob Salerno, all alive because of Sarah. "Mitchell talked about you," the staff sergeant said. "All the time. My sister's an Army nurse, badass, saves lives in Afghanistan. He was so proud of you, ma'am. So proud that his sister was out here doing what you do. He wanted to be like me," Sarah whispered. "When he was 8, he said he wanted to be just like me. And now he's dead. Ma'am, with respect, he died doing what he chose to do. He wasn't forced. He wanted to serve, wanted to be a Marine, wanted to deploy. This was his choice. Just like being here is your choice. But I should have saved him. Ma'am, you saved 46 of us. 46 Marines and soldiers who are alive because you didn't give up, because you coordinated, because you made the hard calls. Mitchell would have made the same calls. He'd have chosen the many over the one. That's what we do." The staff sergeant held out a small box. "The platoon wanted you to have this. Inside was a purple heart. Jamie's purple heart. His personal effects will go to your parents. But we thought you should have this, because you earned it too, not for being wounded, but for carrying the wounds the rest of us don't see, for saving our lives at the cost of your brothers. That's a wound that won't heal. But maybe this can help you remember he died among brothers, and that you saved his brothers. "That matters, ma'am." Sarah returned to duty, not because she was ready, but because soldiers still needed her, because giving up would dishonor Jamie, because running away wasn't who she was. She walked back into the medical tent. Her nurses welcomed her quietly, professionally, gave her space, gave her support. That night, casualties came in. 3 soldiers. IED blast. Not as bad as the mass casualty event, but bad enough. Sarah's hands shook as she started triaging, started treating, started making the same decisions she'd made 2 weeks ago, but she pushed through, did her job. Saved all 3. After they were stabilized, she went outside, sat on the concrete barriers, stared at the mountains surrounding Fob Salerno. Colonel Martinez sat beside her. "You saved them." "I know." "You're going to save many more." "I know. But you'll never forget the ones you couldn't save." "I know. That's what makes you a good nurse." "Sarah, the ones who forget, they become callous, mechanical. They lose the thing that makes them care. You'll never lose that, even when it kills you inside. You'll never stop caring." "Is that supposed to make me feel better?" "No, it's supposed to make you understand why you're still here. Why you came back. Why you'll keep coming back, because caring matters, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts." The anniversary of Jamie's death. Sarah was still at FOB Salerno, still an Army nurse, still saving lives. The medical unit held a small memorial for Jamie, for all the casualties they'd lost over the year. 43 KIA treated at their facility. 43 names read aloud. 43 moments of silence. After the ceremony, Sarah walked to the aid station memorial wall. A simple plaque with names. Jamie's was there. LCPL, James R. Mitchell, USMC September 14, 2024, so others might live. Sarah touched the plaque. "I saved 46 that day, Jamie, because of you. Because losing you reminded me why I'm here. Not to save everyone. That's impossible. But to fight for everyone. To give every single casualty the best chance. That's what you'd want. That's what I'm doing." She heard footsteps. Turned. A young soldier, 19, fresh in country, nervous. "Ma'am?" "Captain Mitchell? I'm Private Davis. I just got assigned to the infantry company. My squad leader said if I ever get hurt, I should hope you're the nurse on duty. He said you're the best, that you saved his life last year, that you don't give up." Sarah looked at this kid. 19 years old, Jamie's age when he'd joined. Someone's little brother, someone's son. "Tell your squad leader to keep you safe. Tell him I don't want to see you on my table. But if I do end up there, then I'll fight for you, like I fight for every soldier. That's the job. Thank you, ma'am." After he left, Sarah returned to the plaque. 46, Jamie. That's how many I saved because I couldn't save you. That's your legacy. The staff sergeant was right. You died among brothers, and I saved your brothers. I'll keep saving them. For you, always for you. Captain Sarah Mitchell completed her deployment at FOB Salerno in November 2025. Returned stateside, was promoted to major, assigned to Walter Reed Medical Center, where she trained the next generation of Army nurses. She never stopped carrying Jamie, never stopped feeling the weight of that day, never stopped second-guessing the triage decisions. But she also never stopped saving soldiers. Over her career, she treated over 5,000 combat casualties, saved thousands of lives, trained hundreds of nurses. When she retired at 60 after 30 years of service, the Army Nurse Corps held a ceremony in her honor. Soldiers she treated came from across the country, 46 Marines from that day in September 2024. Now older, some with prosthetics, some with scars, all alive. The staff sergeant, now a sergeant major, spoke. Major Mitchell saved 46 of us on the worst day of the war. Lost her brother, but saved his brothers. That's the definition of sacrifice. That's the definition of service. They presented her with a shadow box. Inside was Jamie's Purple Heart, her own medals from 30 years of service, and a photo. 46 Marines standing together, alive, healed, carrying on. You saved us, ma'am, and we're living for Mitchell. Every one of us. We're living the lives he didn't get to live, raising the families he didn't get to raise. That's his legacy. You made that possible, Sarah cried. 30 years of grief finally finding release. I lost one, she said. 47 casualties. I saved 46. Lost one. It was supposed to be perfect, supposed to be all of them. Ma'am, with respect, perfect isn't possible in war. 46 out of 47? That's a miracle. And Mitchell, he'd be proud. Proud you saved his brothers. Proud you kept serving. Proud you never gave up. Sarah looked at the photo. 46 faces. 46 lives. 46 reasons to keep going even when everything inside her screamed to stop. 46, she whispered. I saved 46 because I couldn't save one. No, ma'am, the sergeant major corrected. You saved 46 because Mitchell taught you why it matters, why every life is worth fighting for, why we never quit. He didn't die for nothing. He died so his brothers could live, and you made that happen. In Sarah's home, on the mantel, sat 2 items, Jamie's dog tags, and the photo of 46 Marines. She'd lost one, but she'd saved 46. And those 46 went on to save others, to raise families, to serve their communities. That was Jamie's legacy, not his death, but the lives that continued because Sarah refused to quit. 47 casualties, 46 saved, 1 lost, and a nurse who carried both numbers for the rest of her life.